morning. So I wanted to talk about a couple details that we messed around with when it came to brewing compost tea. And one of them was the use of these. This is a 9-inch disc diffuser. And by the way, if you do decide to go with the disc diffusers, a couple details. One is they make two types of these. They both basically look the same, but this one actually comes apart. So the way that works is I actually made this little wooden tool here, and it has notches in it that line up with these tabs and fits in there, and then I can clamp it in a vise so that I'm actually holding this whole bottom plastic piece, and then you spin off this larger outer ring, and that allows you to remove this finely perforated rubber membrane, which is what makes the tiny little air bubbles, and clean out underneath there. That, of course, is important according to Dr. Elaine Ingham, Professor Elaine Ingham. She is adamant about people keeping their brewing equipment clean, because in these crevices and inside the pipes and so on, you can get anaerobic, which is oxygen deprived, the bad bacteria growing, and you want to clean out every so often. How often you would have to do it, you'll have to just experiment with it. We after just a few brews with 9-inch disc diffusers, we abandon it. But before I get into that, I just want to show you, this is the rig we made up. This is, I believe, 2-inch PVC with caps on the ends, because of course we need to take the caps off so that we can clean it, and it also unscrews here so that we can get into the tea and clean it. And then we purchased these. They're sort of a rubber fitting into which the discs can screw, and supposedly you're supposed to be able to glue those on there. I glued them on there, but in short order they started to peel off, so I just wrapped some stainless steel wire, as you can see, to kind of hold them in place, and then these disc diffusers can screw in there. But the reason that we try the disc diffusers is because if you look at the brewer that we're using now, which just has the 1.5-inch PVC with the 3 16th-inch diameter holes along the bottom, it makes pretty big air bubbles. And when you got a big air bubble, you're not getting that much contact. It's only the outer surface of the air bubble that's contacting with the water and putting oxygen back into the water. Whereas with these disc diffusers, they make thousands and thousands of tiny little bubbles, and you get a lot better contact. So the theory is that you can put not the theory, but the fact is you can put a lot more oxygen in the water with a disc diffuser. So one of the questions I had was, is part of the limitation we're seeing in our compost tea, and we're actually pretty good at it, but I wanted to see if we could improve it. Did it have to do with not getting enough oxygen in there? And so I really wanted to saturate the water with oxygen, and so we tried the disc diffusers. We did not really see any increased benefit in terms of the protozoa. Also related to oxygen, if you decide to do this, you really should get yourself in scale. You really should get yourself an oxygen sensor. It just basically has a meter. It tells you your parts per million, and this is the probe. You pull the cap off. You have to actually calibrate the probe and fill the probe with a special solution and so on, but it comes with directions, and actually take readings of your oxygen levels, because again, according to I believe Professor Elaine Ingham, anything below 6%, 6 parts per million oxygen, and you're going to start to go anaerobic. You're going to start to get ciliates and a lot of not good microbes growing. So you want to keep it above 6%. Now the interesting thing is temperature-wise, the warmer the water is, the less oxygen it can actually hold. So at, I think, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, I think it holds like water can hold 12.5 parts per million. At 95 degrees Fahrenheit, it can only hold 7 parts per million. So already at 95 degrees, depending on how warm it is outside and your water is, you know, you're already sort of at the borderline. Now you add in food for microbes and your microbes through your compost, you're going to easily blow below or go below the 6 parts per million, get yourself in trouble. So for a time, we monitored our oxygen very carefully to see what was happening temperature wise. And in fact, on warm days, when it reached near full bloom, where we had a lot of microbial activity, we were pushing that 6 parts per million. And you can see how much that Sweetwater blower blows into the tank. I mean, it is a lot, and that was just barely enough to keep that tank properly oxygenated. So you are going to want to watch that. And the last point is with pH. Again, for a time we monitored the pH, and there's all kinds of discussions about pH and how you have to adjust your pH using humic acid and other additives. But the fact is if you're within reasonable, so if you're 7 to 8 pH, by the time you get those microbes in there and you start brewing that your food and stuff like that, the pH I think you're going to find is going to line out. But you definitely do want to look at your pH initially and make sure that you don't have an issue with too basic or too acidic of a level, and that may be hampering your microbial growth.